Hi there, friends. This is Callie. Thanks so much for being here with me today. I'm so excited to share today's project with you because it's not a card. I wanted to share a way for you to create using stamped images to create framed art as gifts or as decor in your own craft room or living space. So I'm using the stamp wheel today from Altenew. I don't know if you've seen a lot of projects created with this, so I thought I would share it in today's video. As you can see, the stamp platform itself is about 7¼ squared. I've added some personal touches to this to make sure that it helps me stamp and use this product to the best of its ability. So as you can see on this clear plate, I marked the top and bottom with large enamel dots, and then I also marked the 4 corners that will click into the base with smaller enamel dots. So that way when I turn, I know where the top and bottom are and I know where the corners are to start with. And then you can rotate this plate as you go and create a wreath. I think that this platform is great for wreath building. Now in the base of the stamp wheel, we're going to have this photopolymer clear stamped grid. And what I've done here is I've used my Simon Says Stamp Clear Transparency grid to mark the center of the grid platform stamp. And then I've also marked the 4 corners for an A2 sized card. So I've just used a Sharpie marker to mark those 4 corners and the center. So it just helps me align things a little bit better. And you want the gridded side down. So the top is completely flush and it's going to help you hold your cardstock in place, and it's great for stenciling as well. For today's purposes, we're creating a wreath, which is what I absolutely love using the stamp wheel for. So I have a piece of cardstock that's cut down to 7 inches by 7 inches, and I'm centering it in the stamp wheel base on that photopolymer grid. And that's going to hold my cardstock in place perfectly as I stamp my wreath. And what we're going to be using today is the Simon Says Stamp Fresh Air Flowers. I want the blooms on that, and then I want the foliage from the brush flowered stamp set, which is on the right. And so these 2 stamp sets are going to create a beautiful wreath. And I'm going to make it easy on myself today and only do quarter turns. You can make 5 blooms, you can make 6 blooms. I think even numbers are probably going to be better for a design like this. To use the stamp wheel, I'm going to go ahead and lay my stamp down where I want it. Then I'll lay my acrylic top piece on top of that to pick up my stamp. This is actually called a flip plate, and it makes sense because we're going to be doing lots of flipping back and forth. Once you pick up your stamp, you're going to flip the plate over to stamp your ink onto that stamp, and then you'll flip it back the other way, making sure that your enamel dots are aligned in the right place. So this is my top position, and I'll press down and stamp my image. Then I'll flip it over again, ink up my stamp, and then quarter turn it to the right so that I can stamp my second image and then go full circle with my 3rd and my 4th stamped flowers so I can start building a wreath. So I hope this makes sense. I think that marking your flip plate with markings to help you know where the top and bottoms and sides are is going to be really essential in helping you make sure that you align your images properly. So that's a really helpful tip from Altenew. Now, to ensure perfect alignment when you're stamping, you just want to make sure that those 4 corners click into place before you press down to stamp your images. So right now on my 4th one, I have my large enamel dots on the sides. My 4 corners are clicked into place between those gold markings, and then that will help you make sure that everything is in the 4 corners just perfect, and then you press down to ink up your stamp. Now, that is the basis of it, and I'm going to stamp all of my flowers and all of my foliage the exact same way. So there's a lot of stamping to be done, so I'm going to speed things up, but as you can see, the rotation on it is always the same. I have my starting points with my enamel stickers at the top and bottom, and then I'm going to do a quarter turn with every single layer. Now the Fresh Air Flowers has 2 to 3 layers on each. So again, it's a lot of stamping, so I'm going to speed through it, but it's all the same. I'm going to use some purples for these little blossoms, and then I'm going to use yellow on these smaller blooms here, and then we can work on the centers, which I'm going to intensify with some brown. I wanted it to stand out a bit more, and there is a foliage set to this little small yellow bloom, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp that before we move on to the next stamp set. Okay, so we're done with the Fresh Air Flowers stamp sets where we got all of our flowers from. Now I'm going to use the brush flowers set to stamp some foliage. And I'm going to use multiple colors of green so that we can add some interest and additional colors to this wreath. And as you can see, you can stamp multiple images at a time. So you can put 2 or 3 leaves or foliage or whatever layers you have for your stamp design on at a time if you're using the same ink color. And you can also just rotate it halfway. You don't have to rotate it a quarter turn. So as I'm doing with these little blueberries here, I am doing a half turn. So 180 degrees, and then I change the position of the stamp and do another 180 degrees. So it doesn't have to be 4. You can break it up and make it a little different if you'd like. So this is the only image on this whole entire panel that I've stamped without going a quarter turn. I think that kind of breaks it up a little bit and gives it a little bit more interest. And now moving on to the sentiment, because I'm done with all of my stamping to create my wreath, I'm going to use this Slimline Beautiful set, and I want it to say, "You make life beautiful." And you can stamp the word beautiful as well. I wanted to create some dimension with my card, so I'm using the word beautiful with a die. To make sure that my sentiment is straight, as you can see, I used a T ruler, which is perfect for this stamp platform. So after it's nice and straight and my stamp is on my acrylic flip plate, I'm going to go ahead and ink it up with some crisp black ink and stamp it in place. And then we can work on the word beautiful. Again, I'm using the word beautiful die here, and I'm going to layer it with some white cardstock for dimension, but the top is going to be in this matte gold cardstock. So I'm going to die cut that off camera, and then I'll layer the pieces together, and then we can adhere that to the center of the wreath. Now before I adhere that die cut sentiment down, I want to make sure that my cardstock is pulled off of this Altenew stamp wheel. I don't want the word beautiful to pop off or have any issues. I used my embellishment wand to pry up the corner of that photopolymer backing a little bit, and then I was able to pull off my wreath panel just fine. So now I'll go ahead and add glue to the word beautiful and adhere it to the center of my wreath. And I also add the dot for the eye as well. We can't forget that. And that finishes my wreath. Now, I didn't have a frame for this right away, and I did order it after I completed this project. So you'll see in the final photos that I did frame this, and it's gonna make a great gift or home decor if you'd like. And these are so easy to stamp and create. And I hope it inspires you to create some framed art for your space as well. Be sure to check out the links below where everything will be linked for your convenience if you're interested in the products that I used. Thanks so much for stopping by, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.